Okay, so we were discussing this the board paper 2025 board paper, and so we stopped at this one, right? We discussed the this question. Explain the following terms. So we completed all of these: ozone, greenhouse radiation, thermal, and soil pollution. And then the next one is optional module 8A. So it is water resource management. And 37th question: explain the following terms. Here, two questions, and each question carries just 1 mark. Okay, so you don't have to elaborate on the answers, but you can but don't just stop with one or two sentences. Okay, you can add, maybe you can write a small paragraph. So pathogenic pollution and eutrophication. So first of all, what is pathogenic pollution? Pathogen means a harmful microorganism, right, which causes some disease, okay, in an organism. That is called a pathogen. And so pathogenic pollution, it refers to contamination of water bodies by disease-causing microorganisms, right? Okay. So when the water bodies are contaminated by these pathogens, then it is called pathogenic pollution. And what are the pathogens? You have bacteria, viruses, protozoa, and parasitic worms. Yeah. Then what are the major sources of what? Pathogenic pollution. What are the major sources? The major source is domestic sewage. So the sewage water, it could be from domestic sewage and also industrial effluents, right? Okay. So mostly it is domestic sewage because it contains a lot of organic matter, right? So organic matter, when it decomposes, sometimes it might be filled with pathogens. So the primary source of pathogenic pollution is the discharge of untreated or partially treated domestic sewage. Yeah. And also human and animal excreta, right? Human waste and also animal waste into water sources like rivers, lakes, and groundwater. Okay. So what is the primary source? It is the release of domestic sewage and also the waste, human and animal waste, directly into the water bodies without properly treating the sewage water. Okay, so that is the primary source. And then what are the harmful effects of pathogenic pollution? The first one is the water will become contaminated with all of these pollutants, right? Okay, so the water itself will be filled with these pathogens. So whoever uses this water, it could be an animal or it could be people. Whoever uses this water, then all of these pathogens will get into inside the body of those organisms, and they will cause a number of diseases. So and it poses a severe risk to public health, right? Because it not only affects the health of a single person, but if you take the entire course of the river, maybe it might cover several kilometers, right? Okay. And many villages or many cities or towns may be dependent on this water source. So then the entire population is at risk of, getting this pathogenic infection, right? Okay, so that is the major concern here. So it poses a severe risk to public health, and it is responsible for the spread of various waterborne diseases. What are the diseases? Cholera, typhoid, dysentery, hepatitis, and gastroenteritis, right? Okay, so these are some of the important diseases which are waterborne. It means these diseases are spread only through water. So, and humans and animals contract these diseases by drinking contaminated water or eating food washed with it. Yeah. Okay. So, how do we get this disease? Either if we go in contact with the water, sometimes we might use the water for drinking or maybe taking a bath, right? Okay. Or sometimes even food that is washed in this contaminated water, that food, if we say, for example, if you're eating a fruit, hmm, okay, so and if this fruit is washed in this water, then all of the pathogens will be on the on the top layer of the fruit, and when we eat the fruit, it gets inside our bodies. So this is how all of these pathogens get inside our bodies and they cause diseases. So these are the harmful effects of pathogenic pollution. And then the next one is eutrophication. I think we already discussed about this term eutrophication. So what is eutrophication? It is a process by which a water body becomes excessively enriched with nutrients, typically nitrogen and phosphorus. Okay. So when water body becomes excessively enriched, when it contains a lot of nutrients, more than what is required, okay, then that will lead to a process called eutrophication. Okay, then what happens if this nutrient is is available in such a large quantity? Then it leads to excessive growth of some algae. right? Some aquatic plants and algae, and this is what we call the algal bloom. Hmm? Right, but we might think that okay, so the body is the water body is nutritious, so that's why it is able to produce all of these plants and algae. Then what's the problem with it? You might think, but the problem is, see, the nutrients, all of these nutrients from agricultural runoff and domestic sewage, everything gets into the water body. And this excessive nutrient supply, it causes rapid multiplication of these organisms like algae and some surface plants. And then what happens? This dense algal bloom covers the entire top layer of the water body. There won't be even a single place for sunlight to enter the water body. The entire surface of the water body will be covered with the algae, right? Then what happens? This algal cover, it will cover the, it will prevent the sunlight from reaching the, the below surfaces of the water body, right? Okay, because even though we have a number of water plants and organisms, many of them they depend upon sunlight for their nutrition. Okay, many of them will be green plants, so they might absorb some sunlight for performing photosynthesis, right? But when this entire sunlight is blocked by this thick layer of algae, then all of the organisms and all of the plants which lie beneath the surface, they won't get enough oxygen for their for performing photosynthesis or for breathing in, right? Okay, so therefore these organisms will die. They will eventually die. Hmm? Yeah, and also there is another reason when the algae die, because we've seen that there is a thick blanket of algae, right? So when all of these algae die, they are decomposed by bacteria. And since we have algae in such a large amount, when they are being decomposed, a lot of oxygen will be absorbed from the water for this decomposition process. Right? Because how will this algae be decomposed? By bacteria. And how will this bacteria decompose the algae? By absorbing, by utilizing the oxygen which is already mixed in the water. Okay, so when this algae is decomposed by bacteria, most of the oxygen, which is dissolved in the water, will be absorbed by the bacteria. So the other organisms won't have enough oxygen for breathing in, right? Okay, so then what happens? If the organisms are, if they're not able to get enough oxygen, then they will eventually die, right? So these are the consequences of eutrophication. Even though it looks like, just enriching the water body with a lot of nutrients, it is actually harmful to the water body and all the organisms in it. So this is eutrophication. Yeah. Then the next one, how will you perform the water audit of your homes? Water audit means, analyzing the water, how water is effectively utilized in our body, right? Okay, so then taking account of all of these things is what we call the water audit. So water audit is a systematic assessment of water usage in a household to identify how much water is being used, and is it efficiently used, or all the water lines, are they properly set? Is there any leakage? Where if there is any water leakage, then it means you're wasting a very important resource, right? So taking all of these things into account, that is called water audit. So water is being used, where it is being used, and where wastage can be reduced. So performing a water audit at home helps in conserving water and reducing water bills, right? Okay, so if you thoroughly do a checkup of this water audit, then we'll be able to reduce water wastage, thereby we can reduce our water bills. So here is how to perform a water audit at home. So the first step is to identify all the water points in the house. So what are the different water points? Mainly kitchen taps, right? Okay, bathroom taps, showers, toilets, washing machines, water purifiers. So all of these are the water outlets in our homes. So we have to, take into account all of these water outlets. And then you also have outdoor outlets, right? See, garden hoses, car washing areas, swimming pools, if applicable. So all of these are, first of all, we should make a list of all the places in which you are using water. And then measuring water consumption. This is data collection. So what do? We have to measure the flow rates and usage time, right? Okay, so how much water is being used, and in what time period is it being used? You have to collect this data. Then analyzing utility bills. Reviewing past water bills gives an overall idea of total consumption per month, right? Okay, so what do we do? We'll take maybe all the past 6 months of water bills. We can take the bills and we can go through them. We can analyze them. So, what is the overall consumption of water in this house? And so, testing flow rates, place a bucket of known volume under a tap or shower and time how long it takes to fill. This helps calculate the liters per minute flow rate, right? Okay, so how many liters of water flows in a minute? Okay, so we have to take this thing into account. So we have to test the flow rate and then monitoring meter readings. Yeah. So take a reading of the water meter before and after a specific activity, right? To calculate the exact volume used. Yeah. So, okay. So if you have a water meter, if you observe the reading, we can say, for example, before taking a bath, we can observe the meter reading, and then after taking the bath, we can take the watch the reading again, and this will give you the quantity of water that is utilized for taking bath, right? So similarly, you can monitor many different activities. Say, washing dishes will take a lot of water, right? And washing machines, okay, they will also take. And if you have a garden, then watering the gardens will also take a lot of water. There are several, uh, regions in our home which utilize a lot of water. So we have to monitor the quantity of water that is being used, and then detecting leaks. Yeah, because a major source of water waste is undetected leaks. Okay, sometimes there might be some leaks in our toilets or maybe in our kitchen sinks or somewhere. So we won't even be aware of the leaks, right? Okay, so you have to do a check. So the first one is toilet leak test. Add a few drops of food coloring to the water in the toilet tank. So how do we do this test? We have to add a few drops of food coloring to the water in the tank. And if the color appears in the bowl within 15 to 20 minutes without flushing, there is a leak, right? Okay, so how do you identify it? If the color seeps into the sink without even flushing, it means there is a leak in our tank, right? So this is a very simple test. So we can find out that the water tank, the toilet water tank is leaking and we can fix it. And then tap and pipe inspection, check all faucets, shower heads, and visible pipes for drips or dampness, showering dampness. So if there is dampness, it means there is a slight leak, right? So we can fix the thing. And then analyzing usage pattern. Yeah. So how we use the water. Observe how family members use water daily to identify wasteful habits. Yeah, because some family members they will be, you know, meticulous in taking care of their water usage, but sometimes maybe kids, right? Okay, so sometimes people won't be aware of how much water they are wasting, right? So you have to um, observe the family members and how they're using the water. So there are some people who do these things, right? Leaving the tap running while brushing teeth or washing dishes, right? Okay, so this is also a bad idea. Okay, because these things they waste a lot of water. Taking excessively long showers, yeah. Okay, so this also wastes a lot of water. Running the washing machine with small loads of clothes, yeah. Okay, because small loads of clothes means you'll have to uh, um, put a number of loads, right? Instead of a single load, you might with half load, you have to do run the washing machine twice. So it means you're using twice the amount of water. Okay, so these are some wasteful things that people might do knowingly or sometimes even unknowingly. So we have to analyze the usage pattern and then identifying conservation opportunities. So the first one, fixing leaks. That is the first thing, right? Okay, so first you have to fix. It could be a leaking toilet tank, water tank, or maybe a leaking tap or something. Okay, so you have to fix it. And installing efficient fixtures. Yeah. So when we use these fixtures, these toilet fixtures and everything, they should be of very good quality. Because if they are of good quality, they will last longer and they will also not start leaking water. So replace old shower heads and taps with low flow aerators that reduce water usage without compromising pressure. Yeah. Okay. So this is also a very good option. We can use aerators, low flow aerators, so that we can reduce water usage. Yeah. And then changing habits. Yeah, we should educate our family members to turn off taps when not in use. Yeah. And you should also use water efficient practices. Yeah. Okay. So while brushing, you should not leave the taps on. So all of these things. And reuse of water. Identify the source of gray water. What is gray water? The wastewater from washing vegetables or RO purifier reject water. So these are not, we can't say they are polluted water, right? Okay. So these are um, waters that can be recycled, right? Okay, so they can be reused for cleaning floors or watering plants. So these are the different methods in which you can take a water audit in your home and you can try to maximize the effective usage of water in our homes. And then the next one, list four reasons for the growing water shortage throughout the world. Yeah. Hmm. So we can see that many countries, say for example in South Africa, there is a severe water shortage, right? Okay. So what are the major reasons? The first one, rapid population growth. Yeah, we've seen that the population has exploded in the recent past because of various factors, right? Because of increased food security, increased medical facilities, and the overall growth in economy of a nation. So all of these are contributing factors. So as the population increases, then the demand for water also increases rapidly. So the burgeoning global population increases the demand for water for drinking because we need water for everything, basically everything, right? For drinking, and then for cooking, and then for washing vessels, for washing our clothes, and then for taking bath, for cleaning, and for cleaning our homes, and for many different purposes. And also industries, they need a lot of water. So, um, so that's why the demand for water has increased many times. And then inefficient agricultural practices. Yeah. So agriculture is the largest consumer of fresh water globally, right? Okay. So most of the fresh water, it is used for drinking, but most of it is utilized for agriculture. And in many parts of the world, traditional and inefficient methods like flood irrigation are still used. Hmm. Right. In many parts, people still use these old methods like a flood irrigation. So these methods result in massive water wastage through evaporation, seepage, percolation, leaving very little water for other purposes. Yeah. Then what happens when you follow these old methods? They lead to a lot of what wastage of water, because see, if flood irrigation means we'll just fill the field with water, right? Okay, and they will let the water stand for many days. Then what happens? A lot of water will get evaporated because it is exposed, right? And also if the sun is quite hot, then all of the water, most of the water will be evaporated, right? So it is just a weight of the waste of this precious resource, right? Okay, so that is one way of wasting water. And then we also have seepage, percolation, and leaving very little water for other purposes. So these are some of the inefficient agricultural practices that lead to decrease in, the water levels. And then industrialization and pollution. Yeah. So industries, they use a lot of water. So, and rapid industrialization has led to increased demand for water in manufacturing process and energy production. And so, furthermore, industries often discharge untreated toxic waste and effluents. Yeah, this is another thing. Whatever water is left, that water will also be polluted by all of the effluents from these industries, right? Okay, so these industries will just let in their untreated, sometimes even untreated waste, sewage into the neighboring water body. So what happens? Whatever water is left there, it is also polluted. It is contaminated. So it is of no use to other organisms. Yeah. And also pollution. Yeah, pollution is caused by many different reasons, right? We already discussed about this sewage disposal and then industrial effluents. It might be directly let into the water bodies, or sometimes you know agricultural waste. All of these okay, will lead to pollution of water bodies. And yeah, to the next one, climate change and deforestation. Yeah, so what is the connection between climate change, deforestation, and water scarcity? There is a connection. See, climate change Rising global temperatures have altered rainfall patterns, right? Okay, so because of global warming, the rainfall pattern has been altered. So it means we get less and less rainfall, over the period of time. Okay, the rainfall becomes lesser and lesser, and the pattern is also unpredictable. So it leads to prolonged droughts in some areas and intense sporadic floods in others. Yeah. So when it rains heavily, or sometimes there won't be rain for a long spell. Hmm? Right? Okay. So all of these unpredictability in the rainfall pattern has led to, severe droughts in some areas and also some floodings in another in different areas. So it also causes melting of glaciers, which are major sources of perennial rivers. Yeah. Then also another thing, these glaciers, okay, the polar, we discussed that, the polar ice caps have started melting. Right. So these melting glaciers are also one of the major sources of perennial rivers. So if these glaciers melt down, then the rivers will be they will go dry. So that is another reason. So you can see that there is a direct connection between climate change and water scarcity. And deforestation, yeah, what is the relationship between deforestation and water scarcity? The removal of forests reduces the soil's capacity to retain moisture and diminishes the recharging of underground aquifers. Right, right. Okay. So we've seen that these trees, they form a network of roots, right? Okay. The roots form a network. So they will keep the soil together in its place. And also, if the soil is held in its place, then when there is a rain, all of the rainwater will also be absorbed by the soil, right? So if there are no trees, say if the land is barren, then what happens? All of the soil, if there is a heavy rain, all of the topsoil will be washed away, right? Okay, and it is the topsoil which absorbs all of the rainwater, right? So if this topsoil is washed away by the flood water, then not much of water will be let into the into the aquifers. Okay, so the into the recharge regions. So you don't get enough water reaching the aquifers. Then what happens? Um, what it causes the decrease in the water table levels, thereby what causing water shortage. So you can see that each and every natural what do you call the cycle, okay, there is always an interconnection between them, right? So if one of the cycles is affected, then it affects all the other cycles also. Yeah. So in the next one, give an example of community level effort to overcome water scarcity. Yeah. So the first one, context of the scarcity. So, mm, what is this context? The region was facing severe water scarcity due to the depletion of groundwater, deforestation, and the failure of monsoon rains. Yeah, okay, so this was a situation. There is severe water scarcity. Yeah. Then this led to, yes, what will it lead to? Agricultural failure, poverty, migration. Because if agriculture fails, then people won't have enough money. Then they won't have, if the crops fail, then they don't have any other choice than to go to a nearby city or town to find some means of living, right? Okay, so then you can see large scale migration of people. So this is the context of scarcity. Then what can the community do? Revival of Joheads. Yeah. Okay. So we already discussed this, right? So what is a Johed? It is a small earthen check dam that captures and stores rainwater. Because even though the region might be a dry region, but sometimes it does get, in a period of 1 year, in some months, it does get some considerable amount of rainfall, right? But the thing is, people won't bother to store this rainwater, so the rainwater will just go and get mixed with the seawater, right? But what is the Joad? They construct some small check dams across rivers. So when there is a heavy rainfall, then all of this water will be collected by this Joads. So that is one method. Hmm. So then so this water can be utilized for many other purposes. Then what is a collective action? The entire community participated in the construction and cleaning of these structures. Yeah, okay. So because it is not an easy thing to construct a Johar, the entire community has to work together. So what did they do? They participated in the construction and cleaning of these structures. So they contributed labor, and resources, ensuring a sense of ownership and responsibility. Okay, so the village people, they did the labor themselves without any charge. Right. Okay. And they also supplied some resources, whatever they could supply, they supplied some resources also. And so functionality, the johats act as percolation tanks. Yeah. Okay. What is my percolation? The slowly, the water will seep into the, the lower layers of the soil. Okay. So this process is called percolation. And so these johats, they act as, um, you know, regions in which water can be collected, it can be stored, and also it will give enough time for the water to percolate into the bottom layers. So they hold the rainwater, allowing it to seep into the ground slowly. So this process recharges the underground aquifers and raises the water table. So this is one important method, but it is an efficient method because once the water table is rinky, it has been raised, then there won't be water shortage in that particular region. Yeah. Then the next one, impact and outcomes. Yeah. So, so what was the impact? Water security, right? Because the people were able to raise the water level once they've constructed the Johat over a period of few years. As more and more water was allowed to stand and it percolated into the soil, the water table slowly started to rise, and then the region didn't have any water scarcity. And agricultural improvement, yeah, if they get enough water, then automatically agriculture will also improve. Hmm? And ecological restoration, yeah. So the increased water availability led to rejuvenation of dried up rivers. Yeah. So because now we have more water, right? It means the rivers won't dry up. So if there is some water in the river, then a number of organisms, right? It could be aquatic organisms, or plants. A number of organisms will grow in that region. So you can see that there is a restoration of the ecosystem, okay, in that particular region because of one simple step taken by the village people, right? What is the step? It is the building of Johats. Yeah. And also importance of community participation. Yeah. So this example highlights that the success of overcoming water scarcity depends on active involvement of the local community, right? Okay. So because without the help of the community, the government won't be able to do the project, right? Okay, it is with the help of this community because they took most of the actions, right? They took the initiative to build this Johar, and maybe the government would have stepped in later. But anyway, okay, so it was a community effort. And then, so what can an individual do to conserve water? Mention any four ways. Yeah, this is important, right? Okay, so we should always start from our homes, fix leaks and drips promptly. Yeah. Okay, so if you see a leaking water tap, just fix it or just replace it. And a significant amount of water is wasted daily through undetected leaks in taps, showers, and toilets. Yeah. Okay, so then what should you do? You have to regularly check all of the plumbing fixtures and everything. And if there is a leak, it has to be fixed. And then practice water efficient habits in daily chores. Yeah. So what do we do? Turn off the tap. Yeah, when you're not using the water, just turn the tap off. And then efficient cleaning. Yeah, so use a bucket and mug for bathing instead of a shower, because while taking a shower, you won't get to access how much water you're using, right? Okay, because you can't measure anything, right? But if you use a bucket and a cup, then you will know I'm using one bucket or I'm using 1.5 buckets, right? Okay, so you can account, you can measure the amount of water that is used. So if you're using a bucket and a cup. And then, yeah, kitchen usage. Wash fruits and vegetables in a bowl of water rather than under a running tap. Yeah, okay. Because this way we can use the same water for washing many different fruits and vegetables, right? Okay. So that is, yeah. So these are the different things that can be taken by individuals. And then we have reuse of wastewater, which is gray water recycling. Yeah. Okay. So what should we do? We should collect the water used for washing vegetables, rice or dal, and it is used to water plants or clean floors. Yeah. Okay. Because usually when we wash vegetables, rice and dal with water, what happens? You know, the chemicals, or maybe the nutrients in the rice or dal, everything will mix with the water, right? So you can use this water for watering plants because the water is it is nutritious also. And then direct the outlet pipe of the kitchen sink or laundry machine to the garden. Yeah. Hmm. So we can direct the outlet of our sink or laundry machine into the garden, but yeah, we have to be very careful here. The detergent that is used should be an organic detergent, right? Otherwise, all of the harmful chemicals in the detergent, they might harm the plants, right? Okay, so therefore, you should make sure that a safe detergent is used in these outlets, in these washing machines. And then use the reject water from RO purifiers for mopping floors or flushing toilets. Yeah. Okay. So RO purifiers, they make a lot of water, but most of the water, it is good water. Okay. It can be used for some purposes like mopping floor or for washing clothes or for flushing toilets for many different reasons. And then we should also install water saving devices. Yeah. So the first one is toilet tank. We can install a plastic bottle filled with water or a brick inside the toilet tank to reduce the volume of water used per flush. Yeah. Okay. So if we want to reduce the usage of water, we can fill a bottle with water, okay, a plastic bottle, and we can keep the bottle inside the toilet flush. Yeah. Then aerators, yeah, it is also a wonderful method. Fit aerators to taps and shower heads, and these mix air with water, reducing the flow rate while maintaining aquatic water pressure. Yeah. Okay. So they will reduce the water consumption, but at the same time, they will maintain the water pressure. So we can try these aerators also. And the next one, optional module 8B, energy and environment. Yeah. Differentiate between renewable and non-renewable energy sources. Yeah, along with examples. Yeah. Okay, so see here, this is also an important comparison. The first one is definition. What is a renewable energy resource? These are energy sources that can be replenished, right? Okay, so even though we are continuously using up this resource, it can always be replenished. Take, for example, solar power or wind energy, right? Okay, so these can be replenished no matter how much we are utilizing. But non-renewable energy sources, it is not easy to replace it. Even if it has to be replaced, replenished, it will take thousands of years, right? It won't happen in maybe 1 week or 1 month. Okay, so these are called non-renewable energy sources. They exist in limited quantity and take millions of years to form, making them exhaustible. Okay, so the first point. And then environmental impact, generally eco-friendly with very low zero carbon emissions, right? Okay, so renewable energy sources, they are eco-friendly, they are pollution-free. So they have very low or zero carbon emissions. But here, non-renewable energy sources like petrol or diesel, let's take any of these are major sources of pollution, releasing greenhouse gases and toxic pollutants when burnt. So why do we call them as major source of pollution? Because they release a lot of effluents, right? Okay, so releasing greenhouse gases and also toxic pollutants. So all of these are, released while using this non-renewable energy source. And sustainability, mm, sustainable for long-term use, right? Okay, so which is sustainable for long-term use? Renewable energy source. And then non-renewable energy source, not sustainable for long-term use due to limited supply. Yeah. Okay. So this is not suitable for long-term use because it is of limited supply. Yeah. Then examples of renewable solar, wind, hydropower, geothermal, and non-renewable coal, petrol, diesel, all of these. Yes. The next one, mention any two environmental impacts of geothermal energy. Yeah. Okay. So what are the environmental impacts? The first one, release of harmful gases. Hmm? So the process of tapping geothermal energy from underground reservoirs, it can release tapped gases, right? Okay, so because the middle part underneath the Earth's surface, we have what? We have water, and we have oil, we have minerals, and we also have some tapped gases. So, so sometimes when we are tapping geothermal energy, some of these harmful gases might accidentally be released into the atmosphere. Hmm? Okay, then this gas is toxic. Say hydrogen sulfide, this gas is toxic and has a distinct odor similar to rotten eggs, contributing to air pollution. Yeah. Okay. So this is a toxic gas, and it also has a distinct odor. Hmm? Yeah. Okay. It is similar to rotten eggs. So it also contributes to air pollution. Yeah. Then disposal of hazardous wastewater. Mm. Geothermal fluids brought to the surface often contain high concentrations of dissolved minerals, salts, and toxic heavy metals like mercury and arsenic, right? Okay. So when we bring out geothermal fluids, they are a mix of many different things, right? Okay. So dissolved minerals, salts, toxic heavy metals, all of them. If not disposed of properly, this wastewater can contain surface water bodies, can contaminate surface water bodies and groundwater. Yeah. Okay. So if these hazardous waste are not properly disposed, then they might contaminate surface water bodies and groundwater. Yeah. And the next one, diagrammatically explain the working of a hydrogen fuel cell. Yeah. So what does it have? It contains an anode, negative electrode, and a cathode, positive electrode, and an electrolyte. Yes. So this is your setup. Anode, cathode, and then we have this electrolyte. So at the anode, what happens? Hydrogen gas is supplied to the anode. And then a catalyst splits the hydrogen molecules into electrons and protons. So the first thing is hydrogen gas is supplied to the anode, and we also use a catalyst here, and this catalyst splits the hydrogen molecules into electrons and protons. So this is the equation. 2H2 gives 4H plus 4E minus. And then we have ion movement. So what happens? The protons pass through the electrolyte to the cathode, while the electrons are forced to travel to the external circuit, creating an electric current. Yeah. Then uh, the protons will pass through the electrolyte to the cathode. Okay. Then when the protons move, then the electrons, we can assume that the electrons move in the opposite direction, right? So therefore, they are forced to travel to the external circuit, creating an electric current. Yeah. And then at the anode, what happens? Oxygen gas is supplied to the cathode, and the electrons return from the external circuit and combine with the protons and oxygen to produce water and heat as byproducts. Okay, so at cathode, what happens? Oxygen gas is supplied to the cathode, and the electrons return from the external circuit. So all of the electrons which went outside, okay, so to the external circuit, they will return back and they will combine with the protons to produce H2O and heat. So oxygen plus 4H minus plus 4E minus gives you 2H2. Yeah. So this is how what happens. The working principle of this is the working principle of hydrogen cell. Then mention any two ways for energy conservation at community level for housing complexes. Yeah. So how can energy be First of all, we have to conserve energy at home. And the next thing is at the community level, we should try to find means to control what? And energy usage. So energy conservation at the community level, particularly in housing complexes, can be achieved through collective efforts. So the first one is installation of solar street lighting. Yeah. Okay, so they can replace all of their conventional electric street lights, and they can replace them with solar lights, because since they are out in the open for throughout the day, so they do receive a lot of sunlight. So the sunlight can be converted into light energy. So so this is one thing. Mm. Mechanism. These lights utilize photovoltaic cells to convert solar energy into electricity. So they use photovoltaic cells where solar energy is converted into electricity during the day, which is stored in batteries to power the lights at night. Yeah. Okay, so this energy is stored in batteries and it is used to run the appliance, run the bulb or whatever the light in the nights. And then what is the impact? This reduces the complex dependence on the conventional power grid. Yeah. Hmm? Okay. So because we are able to produce solar, electricity from our own, right? Okay, with our equipment, with the solar panel. So therefore, it reduces the burden on the governments. Okay, significant amounts of electricity and reducing carbon emissions. Yeah. Adoption of energy efficient common area lighting. Yeah. Okay. So what do we do here? These common areas, they should have lights which are energy efficient lights. They can either use solar energy or they may use both the energies. Okay, common areas, corridors, staircases, basements, and community halls with the energy efficient alternatives. Yeah. Mm. Then the next one. One second, I'll be back. Okay. Yeah. So then adoption of energy efficient common area lighting. Yeah, because in our apartment complexes and all of the places, we have a number of common areas, right? So they should be lighted. So they should, and these lights sometimes they have to be kept on all through the night, right? So therefore, if we use energy efficient lights in these places, then it'll conserve a lot of energy. So replacing incandescent bulbs and tube lights with LEDs or CFLs, right? Additionally, installing motion sensors in low traffic areas ensures lights are only on when needed. Yeah. Okay. So this is another important thing. We can install motion sensors in low traffic areas because they will sense the motion, and if there is any motion, it means if there are any people using that corridor, then the lights will turn on, or else the lights will turn off. Okay, so they will stay off. So this is another method. And then what is the impact? LEDs consume much less electricity and have a longer lifespan, leading to substantial energy savings. Yeah. Okay. So if in a house, all the bulbs are, the old filament bulbs, if they are replaced with CFLs and LEDs, then definitely the house will consume less amount of energy. And then the next one, mention four technologies or equipments that were used during construction of Auroville Visitor Center in Pondicherry that led it to win Hassan Fateh International Award in 1992. Okay, so we have a center called Auroville Visitor Center, and it won the Hassan Fateh International Award in 1992. So, what was this award about? Mm, it was for its demonstration of appropriate sustainable building technologies and renewable energy systems. Okay, so because of all of this, this center got this award. So, what are the some of the things that are installed in this building? Compressed stabilized earth blocks (CSEB). So, instead of conventional burnt bricks, which consume high energy and cause pollution, during production, this project used compressed stabilized earth blocks. So these blocks are made by compressing a mixture of soil and a small amount of stabilizer in a machine, followed by curing rather than burning. So it is compressed stabilized earth blocks. Instead of burning, it will be cured and it will be compressed. So these types of bricks were used in the construction. And then ferro cement technology, it was used extensively as the cost-effective and versatile alternative to reinforce concrete. So instead of concrete, they used ferro cement technology. So what do we use here? It consists of thin layers of cement mortar applied over a metal mesh, like chicken wire. Okay, and this technique allows for strong, lightweight structure like roof shells and water tanks using less mineral material. Okay, so it contains thin layers of cement mortar and it is applied over a metal mesh. So it gives it adds strength to the building. Okay, and also the structure is going to be lightweight. Yeah. And solar energy systems, they also install the solar energy panels, utilize solar energy for its power requirements. And this included the installation of solar photovoltaic panels for electricity generation and solar water heaters. Okay, so they use solar panels for generating electricity and also for water heaters. Then an important thing, wastewater recycling system. Yeah. So the comprehensive wastewater recycling system was incorporated to manage water sustainability. So whatever wastewater is produced in that facility, in that building, okay, so if it is grey water, if it is possible to reuse the water, then it will be, processed, it will be what? Mm, um, you know, um, retreated, okay, and it will be utilized for some other purpose. And yeah, so it treats wastewater generated in the building, making it suitable for reuse in irrigation and gardening, thereby conserving precious freshwater resources. Yeah, so this is the end of our question paper. Okay, yeah, so. mm, Okay, so in our next video, we'll discuss another question paper. Yeah. Okay. See you.